We're Laura and Cindy, and you're listening to the Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry podcast, where we talk about natural horsekeeping and deepening your connection with your horse. I'm Laura, your horse care mentor. I teach natural horse management practices after working with over 200 horses and seeing how current industry standards are compromising the health of the horse.
And I'm Cindy, your horsemanship mentor, offering a proven and unique approach to creating deep connections with your horses from 20 plus years of experience, including working with wild Mustangs. If you enjoy this conversation, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to us so we can get this podcast into the ears of more passionate horse people. Today's episode is something that kind of came to me while I was driving the other day, and I ran it by Laura, and she hands down agreed. You know, for those of us who have been in the horse industry for a long time, I think, and especially those of us who are teachers, which both Laura and I are, I think we kind of just forget or take for granted that people know the basics of horse care. You know, like, I mean, when you start taking riding lessons or you get your first horse, your first introductory, they teach you what the tools are, how to halter, how to walk, how to groom them and, bathe them and stuff like that. But what about the day-to-day husbandry? For us who have been doing it all our lives or for many, many years, we just take for granted, like people know how to use an apple picker, which is a horse poop rake, but people don't. There is a trick to it. And shavings are not shavings. And you've got the horse, you have the beautiful stall with the rubber mats, and then they have their run, also known as the paddock. And we're creatures of comfort, so we want our horses to be creatures of comfort. So we want to put down heavy, heavy bedding of shavings in their stall, because we envision them going in there at night and hunkering all down and getting all cozy. And they're like, sweet, I can poop and pee and not get splattered. Right, Laura?
Yes.
And then the human is like all pissed off. And nobody's taught you how to clean the poop and the pee out of the shavings. So now you're wasting a tremendous amount of money and shavings, and you're frustrated with your horse, and your horse is ever so grateful that you have resolved the issue of pee-pee splattering on the hind hoofs. So what do you do with that? Especially in the wintertime.
So Cindy, got a question for you here.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like maybe you're dealing with this, and I just imagine maybe Rocky is going through a change, and this is a very real life example. Would you like to share?
Well, you are spot on. I have lived this experience, but it's not currently with Rocky,
Okay.
because Rocky has a beautiful padded stall, but no shavings. But when I lived in Truckee and had my very own first barn with beautiful flooring, it was called Tough Skins, and it wall to wall. Soft material that wicked all of the moisture down through it, and we had leach pits in the middle of leach pits filled with gravel, so it would all go down into there. And so I would put shavings in there, and that was my lived experience. And even earlier on in my horse years of having a horse, I usually always had him out in pasture, but when I had my first young horse and put him in a boarding facility, and there was all this pooping and peeing going on in his shavings, and I was wasting. I had a friend of mine who we'd grown up together. She's like, okay, girl, let me show you what you need to be doing. And I'm like, okay. So she showed me how to, horses always pee in the same spot, and they usually always poop in the same spot.
And she was earning extra money by cleaning this facility. And so she's like, you find the wet spot by gently raking off the top layers, and then you move all the shavings away from that wet spot, and you pick up just the wet shavings. And the poop, you pick up the poop and learn to sift it off of the apple rake. So she said, but I want you to know how to do it, but can I please teach your horse how to go outside? And I'm like, you can do that? And she's like, look at it. You're the horse. Your horse is the only one out of these 12 that is doing this because he's new. And so literally, she potty trained my horse to go out in his paddock. And the way that she did that was she would take a pile of his pea shavings and his a couple piles of poop, and she would put them outside where she wanted him to go to the bathroom. And within about 8 weeks, my horse was potty trained. And we even left a little shavings out there so that he didn't get splattered. And I have taught so many of my clients how to do the same thing. Now, when I lived in Truckee, I still had the one that had been potty trained, but then I had one who had always been out to pasture, and he to this day, that's Gino. Many of you have heard about Gino, 27 years old this year. No, he if he's got a nice indoor shelter, he's gonna poop and pee in it because he can. So, what are your thoughts on that, Laura?
Yeah, I think what popped in my head as you were saying it, I'm really happy we're talking about it this time of year because you want to do this training process when the flies aren't as bad. So this is perfect to do this now. And it's funny, our horses are totally outside horses and they have a stall. So when we originally got the barn, um, the hay was being stored on the property next door. And so I thought we were going to have two stalls. And so I was planning on bedding down both of those stalls in the winter. And I was kind of excited because I'd never had a place that I could bed down for my horse before. And then when the property next door sold, now we use one of the stalls for hay storage. Like, you got to triage. Keeping my hay dry and covered and protected is so much more important than having a place to bed my horse down in California where it rains maybe 80 days of the year, probably less, 60 days of the year. Like, they can share a stall. I purposely do not bed that stall down because the last thing I want, it's a pretty small stall to begin with. The last thing I want is for two doofus horses to decide to lay down in there and get stuck on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not a lay down spot. That is a stand out of the rain spot. They've got areas under trees they can go to lay down if they need to. But anyway, so they're really good about not pooping in that stall until a crappy day comes.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't care. We will be inside. And we will create this disgusting poopy mess. And mom will clean it when she comes. It will be okay.
And it's okay, isn't it?
It
I
is.
mean, if that's the only time they do it, it's okay.
Um,
Like, we struggle to put on all our wet clothes and cold, warm clothes to go out and care for them. So,
right. Right. Um, but if you're in a situation where your horses have a little bit more space, you can do the same thing, but you kind of watch their habits. So our horses just happened to pick one spot behind the barn and one spot in front of the barn that they mostly go in. And so we're kind of just like fostering, that's perfect. Two potty areas. They're called stud piles.
hmm
And so when I'm picking poop everywhere, and I'm often OCD and I take it all away because they're pretty good. But if I was really concentrating on training them to go in those areas, I would leave a little bit in those two areas. And if you're really worried about flies, what you can do is you can buy what's called fly predators and put them, they're insects that you buy online that eat the egg larvae on the poop. So if you're like, I just feel like I can't leave poop down because of the flies, you put the predators on that remaining poop. And that's actually a really great fly management system, anyways.
Sometimes I've tried predators, and I know others who have tried them, and I've not had success with them, but I don't think I had the right situation. All my horses were pastured horses. So you really have to be doing poop cleaning daily in order for your predators to work. And you have to be devoted to the, like anything, you have to be committed to learning it and devoting to it. And I've had people say, I spent money on predators and it didn't work. And it
Yeah.
finds out that they weren't letting them hatch, or they were waiting too long for them to hatch, or they weren't storing them right because they come as larvae and then you spread them and they hatch on the poop. So you have to really, and the people who is it that makes them? Is it called fly predator or
Yeah, that's what I Google fly predator and they show
I
up.
want to say that's
Yes.
I want to say that's the company's name, and they are some of the most customer service friendly
Mhm.
people. So if you're interested in that and you do find that you have a manure pile that's only getting hauled off ever so often, they're a great they're a great thing to do. But if you're like out in a pasture situation and you don't have a specific manure pile, then they don't work. Or if you're in a super windy area, which I have lived for
Yes. And another problem
12
I've
years.
seen have is the birds swoop in and are like, ooh, delicious snacks, and they eat all your fly predators immediately. So we were actually at my old barn. She was like staking down like mesh nets that the bugs could get through, but the birds couldn't onto them. So you have to be willing to get creative. But I think that this is we're just segueing into fly management, which is
Hmm.
another thing that people don't know. Your fly mask, your fly boots, and your fly spray are your final line of defense.
And even your fly blankets,
Like all of
fly
that, all
nets.
of all of that topical, I'm going to prevent flies from getting to my horse are your final line of defense. But if your facility doesn't have a system for managing flies, it's laughable. Like you spray on the fly spray and you walk away, and 5 minutes later, the flies don't care because there's so many of them. Now, this is again, we're talking about this kind of stuff a lot right now where you might have complete control over this, you might have partial control over this, you might have zero control over this. But if you have the information, you can advocate for it and get creative as best you can within your situation. A lot of boarding places, owners are responsible for their own poop, and some owners don't. In our area, I think this is kind of specific to our area because you can get away with it. But in our area, it's so hot in the summertime that if you don't clean up your poop, it just turns to dust and blows away.
Hmm.
So some
Hmm.
people don't. And so there's boarding facilities where there's owners who clean up their poop every day, and the owner next door doesn't clean up their poop ever. And the
Hmm.
poor owner who's cleaning up their poop every day is at the fly mercy of everyone around them.
Hmm.
And that, to me, is poor management.
Absolutely.
Um, and part of the reason, like, I just feel so grateful to have what I have. But fly management means you're taking the poop farther away from where the horses hang out.
Yes.
So maybe you're in a pasture situation where your poop is kind of spread out, but you're setting up where you ride, where you tack up, where you ask your horse to be calm and centered and focused on you. Ideally, poop is far away from that. Ideally, they have their stud piles in the pasture and they can walk away from and get away from that concentrated area of flies.
Hmm.
At that concentrated area of flies, you have your fly traps, you have your fly predators. If you can, an amazing way. So you have to understand we have the house flies. The house flies are what the fly traps are going to capture. So you want to put those in your heavy fly areas. Then you have those like ones that like buzz around and like they're smaller and they buzz lower to the ground and they're the cattle flies.
Hmm.
Those are not going to go into your fly traps. The best way you can manage those, if possible, is to cover up your main poop pile so that they can't fly in and lay their eggs in the first place. Now, if you can't do that, another option is you keep that poop pile hot and composting and breaking down into soil as quickly as possible so that they don't want to lay their eggs there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have your poop hauled away all the time, which is amazing, but extremely expensive. We are not able to do that. So, what I'm doing on my small scale of 2 horses is I have gone to the thrift store and bought a bunch of king-sized sheets. Now, I started with landscaping fabric, and it would have worked great had my horses not had access to my poop pile. But they thought it was very fun to punch holes through the landscaping fabric with their feet. So that didn't work. But I think the sheets will be a little bit more forgiving. I'm going to just sew king-size sheets from the thrift store together and use them to cover my poop pile this summer. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fancy, but it's going to help solve that.
Now, are you composting it and getting organic homesteaders to haul it away for you, or what are you doing with it?
Yes. So it's all like we're two busy moms doing our best. So if I had a tractor and more hours in the week, I would be watering it and turning it and like really aggressively composting it. Like if you want to break down poop fast, you keep it wet and you keep it moving. And you can turn poop into beautiful soil in 90 days easily.
Mm.
If you're not having freezing weather, which I'm not having. It will have to sit all winter if you're having freezing weather. But I have a shovel and very limited time. So I'm piling it all up and it's doing its own thing, but it's still doing its own thing pretty quickly. And we have an ongoing Facebook Marketplace ad saying, come get free poop. And we're at the whim of our community. And when they come, great. And when they don't, we manage it on the pile where it is.
Mm-hmm. And you take some home to your own
And I take
homestead.
some home too. Yeah. I take probably 4 2-horse trailer loads a year. So,
Um, a lot of people, what we did in Truckee, because uh, we lived in like ranchette areas, we all had like 1 to 2 acres. And we tried just letting it dissolve, and it was great footing for the horses. But it we were noticing that our bottom fence posts, our rails were getting starting to disappear. And Bruce is like, "Hey, we can't keep doing this. We have to have a better solution." So we did get a 6 yard dumpster and had it right outside our corral, and we filled it up and had it hauled off every 2 weeks. And then in the winter time when we had snow, I just piled it the best I could in one area. And then our neighbor who did our snow removal, we'd pay him when it got warm enough to come and haul. He had a dump truck and a tractor, and he would come haul it all off for us. But I see lots of people in this area. I'm in the Carson Valley of Nevada. I see a lot of people having just your regular size trash bins, and they have several of them, and they fill them up and they haul off every week. And that's something that you can arrange with your disposal company, your garbage disposal company. There's this one really, really nice facility out in an area not too far from us called Washoe Valley. And it's amazing what creative, organized people can do with 5 acres, Laura. I
yeah.
mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
They have a beautiful full-size arena. They have a beautiful round pen. They have an obstacle course area. They have, I think, stalls and paddocks for 12 horses, and nothing seems crowded. But outside of every paddock of those horses is their own garbage can, like we put our household garbage in and roll out to the curb. There's one outside of every one of those that's getting filled and hauled off. So you can, at least in this area and up in the Sierras of California, we were able to get the garbage companies to haul off our poop. And of course, you pay for it. But it,
Well, so it's really worth putting in a call to your local area. So where my house is, if my horses were in my suburban backyard, I could get up to like 4 or 5 free compost bins and they would haul it away for free.
Because they're making money off of that.
Yes. And I thought that I was going to get to do the same thing at my horses, but it's just a different trash company and they
Mm,
will not.
darn it.
But put in a call because you might be doing a ton of work when you don't have to, and you might not cost yourself any money at all.
Yeah.
Ready to unlock true freedom with your horse? Join Unbridled Freedom, our private Facebook group for women on a spiritual journey in horsemanship. We don't fix our horses, we transform ourselves. This is your space to embrace challenges, celebrate victories, and deepen your bond with your horse. If you're ready to lead with wisdom, compassion, and inner peace, join us today. Let's dance with our horses as one. The link is in the show notes below.
And I love that we're having this talk because flies is part of that day to day, seasonal, day to day management.
Yeah.
And we're starting to enter into it. I don't know about you, Laura, but we're having unseasonably warm weather here, and we're starting to see the little natty things that when you move a pile of poop, there they are.
I'm getting
Um,
nailed with mosquitoes while I'm working like crazy. Like I'm an
yikes,
itchy human. Yeah.
yikes. So I typically start March 1st, but I'm actually starting on Monday. I use feed through products for fly control. And there's some well known companies out there that sell a feed through that actually has pyrethrin in it. I don't want to feed my horses chemicals. It's one thing to be spraying it on them all season long. I don't want them ingesting it. I use a product called Bugzo, and it is apple cider vinegar, garlic, diatomaceous earth, and grape seeds crushed. So the apple cider vinegar and the garlic, the horses ingest it, and we smell like what we eat. And if we were to be bit, we taste like what we eat. So the horses begin to smell and taste like apple cider vinegar and garlic, and the flies are not as attracted to one that has that versus one who doesn't. And then the diatomaceous earth and the crushed up grape seeds are what's helping the poop control. Larva does not like diatomaceous earth, and the grape seeds crushed up are fine little coarse pieces that the horses pass through their manure. So the fly lays its eggs in the poop, and the poop turns to larva. The larva starts moving and slices their bellies on that grape seeds crushed, and they die. So you're getting two cycles. Now, I have had lots of people say, just like predators, they don't work. Well, you can't just do one thing. If you're only going to do one thing, get your poop the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Period. If
Yes.
you're going to do one thing. But if you can't do that, you have to do multiples. Now, I have started Bugzo in April or May just because life got away from me and I didn't. And I don't have nearly the fly control that I have. Do I have zero flies? Never have I had zero flies with Bugzo. Do I have a huge difference? Absolutely. When I start early, 1st of March before the flies start, so that it's a loading dose, it's a cumulative, it's a nutraceutical, so it's a loading. By the time the flies are out and hungry, my horses taste icky. I'm starting early this year because we're seeing early. Now I know March could be full of snow, but
That's okay.
I'm still starting because
Yeah.
April's going to come,
Yeah.
May's going to come, and I need that loading dose on. And so I feed 11 horses, and these feed throughs are not cheap. There's another one called, I think, Bug Light. The Bug Zo is pellets, and it's easy to get my horses to eat it in with a little bit of, I don't give grain, I give low carb, complete, which is, low sugars and
Like a compressed hay,
structured
basically.
carbs. Yeah, so they're not getting sweet.
Yeah.
And I mix it in with that, and they eat it. But the Bug Light, I think, is what it's called. It comes in powder form. It's a little bit cheaper. You feed a little bit less, but I have 11 horses, and not one of them is fooled by powder over their grain. I have to add some kind of water or molasses water or something, and that's just a pain, especially where I am now. What do you do, Laura, other than poop control?
What's interesting is, it's funny how you talk about the horses that taste good, you know?
Hmm.
Well, so what I noticed last year, I'm still implementing my system because I moved my horse. I used to have fly boots and fly masks, which MJ doesn't wear fly masks. I suggest she wears them and puts them on. She rips them off, so that's fine. MJ likes to stand butt to tail with another horse all day long and swat flies for each other. That's her fly management. That's her business, I guess. Um, but since I moved to this place where I have more control, I was like, ooh, I want to get on top of this. I want to do all the things. And I noticed poor Rain Man is a white and chestnut paint with very thin skin. And MJ has very thick skin. Poor Rain Man is MJ's fly control because he tastes so much better than her. They leave her alone. And it's unbelievable. And he happily, the interesting part is he happily wears a fly mask. He happily takes all the support. I have never used a feed through before. I as you were talking this year, I realized I'm really getting into the herb bar and implementing the herb bar. I'm like, oh, I need to put the apple cider vinegar out. I need to give them the choice to take those things on board if they think they need them
Hmm.
in my herb bar. So that is what I will do. Something that came up when you were talking is Straight from the Horse Doctor's Mouth is a great podcast. They have an episode on fly control and they looked at the how far these flies will fly for your poop.
Mm.
Unfortunately, it's up to 200 miles.
Wow.
So we are somewhat at the whim of everyone with livestock within a 200-mile radius of us.
Right.
But again, that just comes down to making your area, however big or small that area is, as least attractive of a place to lay eggs as possible is is the very best you can do.
And you guys, not only are flies just a pain in the ass and they're annoying to the horses, but they do create issues. They like to eat the boogers out of the corner of their eyes and they create fly wounds. They like to eat on their bellies and under their armpits and they create wounds. And then that just makes them go even more at your horse. So, there are medical reasons why we want to keep this controlled. Fly eggs can become maggots, and so they don't lay those. I don't know how the fly cycle works. I guess I could explore it, but as a veterinary technician in the summertime, those big hairy dogs that sit out in the barn, out in the ranch property under the tree, and all of a sudden the owner says they smell dead and they bring them into us, and well, yeah, they've had wounds, hot spots underneath all that fur, and now it's full of maggots.
And
So
in
and
horses, that's a summer sore.
Yep, and that comes from flies laying eggs in horses' wounds, and they
Yeah.
become maggots. Um, so it's not just annoying; it's a health issue. And come late spring, late summer, early fall is the ripe season for a thing called pigeon fever, which is spread. I think it's a Pseudomonas bacteria. It's spread by flies. One horse gets it from flies, from a wound, infected, and they become abscesses. And they can be, you hope it's an outer abscess that ruptures, not an internal one that ruptures inside, because now you have a very life threatening sick horse. But like Laura said, you get pigeon fever in your area, an infected fly could fly 200 miles and infect somebody else's horse. But they're going to do a flyby if you don't have an attractive environment. So, we've kind of gone off on the whole fly thing, but with this time of the year, it's really important. And it's funny because I had this one bay horse, my love of my life, my first baby that I ever raised. Four horses in a pasture, and he's the only one covered with flies.
Mhm.
And it's like, what the heck? And I have people say that all the time. My horse is the only one covered with flies, you know? Why? I guess because they taste better. So good barn management, poop management, um, will help with the fly issues. The other thing that we struggle with, kind of going back to the peeing in the stall, not everybody has mats. Some of them are just dirt
Or
floors
yeah.
or just a lot of peeing in their paddock. Like right now, my horses are in smaller areas than I'd like them to be, and I have literal septic poop, mud, ick that I every day am tending to. And it smells. Keeping the poop out helps with the thrush, but they're walking through all this stuff, which is just as bad. There's a great product out on the market called PDZ. You can get it at Tractor Supply, at Cow Ranch. Um, I think actually I've seen it at my local feed store. So it's a product. It's like a sandy product that deodorizes, not deodorize. Well, it does
Like a
deodorize a little.
neutralizer.
It's a
Yeah.
neutralizer, but it does kind of have a fragrance to it. But basically, what it's doing is neutralizing and absorbent.
Mm.
So it's taking that mushy, messy, they peed and then they stepped in it, and now you have a hoof pool, holding that. Um, I use a lot of that right now because it's one of the few ways to manage, and I'm hauling in dirt, you know, and covering it up. And once you cover those wet spots up, the horses will kind of go find another spot. And I'm finding through this winter management of these smaller areas is that if I can keep it clean, like if it's wet, I will take my apple picker and rake it and almost
Mhm.
like aerating it.
Mhm.
And then I will take as much as that muddy, dirt, cloggy stuff that I've just raked and throw it away. And then I will take dirt from wherever else I can and rake it over the top of it. And I'm finding that they are now going in an area until it gets too saturated, and I keep maintenance on that. They'll go over to another area that's dry and start using it as their pee spot.
Mhm.
And by the time that gets to the point where it's like, ugh, the spot that I've been managing over here is now dry, and they go back over to there. So it's kind of working out. In my perfect world, I wouldn't have any of this, but it's working, So management.
And become aware of what's available to you in your community. For you said you're hauling in dirt. So, fire station close to our horses has huge piles of sand that's available to the community to control flooding and, basically maintain the ground in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
That's free. I can go get sand. I'm not going to be a jerk and pull up my trailer and take the whole pile,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I can do little bits. Other area in our community offers sand and mulch. Mulch is something you can offer get for free. Mulch is complicated because you want to be aware of what kind of tree is it and is it toxic.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to know mulch is a very temporary situation. It's going to break down and create more mud.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in like, oh my God, I gotta handle this now, today in the rainstorm, it will work. You have to watch. And I put down a little bit and I watch. Some horses are going to eat it, and we don't want that. Some horses are going to leave it alone and not care. And you have to suss that out and decide. But it is a temporary fix option if you're like, I'm only going to be here one winter, or I just need to solve this now. Something else I have discovered that I tested that's been great. Our water trough has like a dish in front of it because it's a big trough where we uncork the bottom and drain it, and it's just washing out the soil underneath it. And so that creates a puddle when it rains, and the horses have to stand in the puddle to drink. And I because of how my water lines are ran and stuff, I can't really just move my trough. I need to set aside time to regrade that land, and I haven't. But I purchased those very cheap shower mats that like grid together. They're rubber
Mm-hmm.
grids. I just put it down in the dip. So the horses aren't making the mud worse. They still have to step into a puddle on really rainy days, but they're stepping into a puddle on rubber footing that's not packing their hooves full of mud. And I think I spent $30 on an area big enough to handle that spot.
So when you say bath mats, you're meaning horse bath mats, not
No, this
like
is for people. Like they're like rubber grids that you would put in your shower if you were worried about falling over.
interesting. Because I've seen, on some of the tracking systems, I've seen areas where they've got the big mats, but they've got the holes in them,
If you are
you
not
know?
under financial constraint and you have some money, horse mud control grids are the best on the market. They are an 18-inch square. They have a 20-year warranty. And if I had 5 grand to spend, I would buy 5 grand of mud grids. They are awesome.
But so I don't have that. So let's go back to the bathroom
Okay.
mats. Where do you get them?
I got them on Amazon, and I will put a link to them in the show notes so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um,
Yes, because not only is that great for like your super muddy in front of the water trough or low spots, but if they're not super expensive, no. I mean, I'm kind of thinking like, how can I flatten out where they're peeing and put that down so they're peeing, but it's going through so they're not standing and packing their hoofs. I'll have to noodle on that because I'm not sure that would work.
the only thing is, I think if they poop on them, it would be a huge
Pain in the butt.
pain to muck it off. But if you're trying to build up the land, you could pour sand on top or something else on top, and that would solve the problem. And it's just providing structure to the ground underneath whatever you're putting on, and it's providing something for that sand to go down in and hold on to instead of be washed away. If
Right.
I'm not going to do that in this specific area because when I unplug my water trough to clean it, I would be washing all my sand away. And what I have to do is the horses do kind of compress it down into the mud, and so I just pick it up and put it back down. It takes 2 seconds. Super easy.
So the dirt that I'm hauling in, I'm not hauling in. It's
You
actually,
have dirt
I
available
live in
to
the
you, but you're
desert,
just
so
shoveling it
I'm
around.
just
Yes.
bringing
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And
Yes.
my friend who does my morning feeding for me, Ray, bless your heart, I love you dearly. Her husband loves to play on the tractor, and so he did a lot of good work and made some really nice piles of sandy dirt for me. So this winter we're pulling off of those. But another thing that I'll do is I have a couple horses who will waste some of their hay
Mhm.
and they'll poop or pee in it, instead of just throwing that out, I take it over to the wettest spots and I mix it all around and play with it in there for a little while. And it does help absorb and pick up some of that pee. And then I throw all that away. So the bottom line is whatever you can do to keep from having a puddle, a muddy mess, and keeping it as clean as possible, just like your poop. Like I don't like what I have going on, but I'm actually been playing with it long enough that I'm seeing my horses are actually helping me. Like just to the point where I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Then they'll stop peeing there and literally go start somewhere else. And then I'm maintaining that and flattening and raking the other one and letting air get to it every day. And before you know it, it's dry. And then so we're figuring it out. What are some of the other things, Laura, that
Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever looked at your horse and wondered if they're thriving in your care? Is there more you can do to give them the best life possible? Most ranches and boarding facilities are set up for convenience, not horse health, but there's tons you can do to fix your horse's situation if you're willing to get creative. Join Evidence-Based Horsekeeping, my Facebook group where members learn how to improve the mental and physical well-being of their horses. The link is in the show notes. We talked about water, we talked about flies, but an important thing I think that just segues into this whole conversation is how you're managing your water troughs.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, you either have a small container of some kind that's being refreshed all the time, and it's very easy to scrub it out and keep it clean. That's an important routine to have. Or you have the automatic feeder in the giant trough that never gets touched.
Mm-hmm.
The automatic feeder in the giant trough that never gets touched needs a management system. Otherwise, you get tons of mosquito larvae
Mm-hmm.
in there, and your horse is ingesting mosquito larvae. We had a disgusting problem that I never would have imagined. We have a lot of ground squirrels on our property, which I spend a ridiculous number of evenings shoving bombs down their holes to kill them in the dark while the horses look at me like, this is entertaining. What are we doing now? Anyway, so what was happening is the ground squirrels use the horse water trough as their water source in the summertime. And the little nasties crap in there. And their crap was full of red roundworms.
Mm-hmm.
So I show up to my water trough crawling in red roundworms that my horses were drinking.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fun of moving to a new place and figuring out all of its foibles. So I am not a huge proponent of the water trough with the goldfish in it,
No.
but sometimes it is necessary because I cannot dump a 200-gallon trough every 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that would have taken. So, how we have managed this is I also don't want, because we don't go every single day, I don't want my horses just having the muck bucket sized tub when it's 110 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have one muck bucket sized tub that we keep as clean as possible. It's dirty right now, it's stressing me out. I need to clean it. So, that's their clean water source. And then we have our big trough that is our backup water source that I need to clean about once a month. Take the fish out, do the whole thing. But those goldfish are extremely necessary because I do not want my horses ingesting mosquito larvae and red roundworms constantly, and I needed a management for that.
And are they doing the
Um,
job?
they're doing the job beautifully. Yeah. And so some places never, ever, ever dump their waters. And there's a lot of conflicting evidence about the ammonia rising in the ammonia and the nitrogen rising in the water from the goldfish and da 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 da. My thought process of that is those horses are drinking. That's the other thing. The horses don't give a crap if they're drinking out of the clean water or the dirty water. They drink out of both of them equally. But I think the horses are drinking enough so that that water is replenishing so that those levels are not rising in the way that we think they are.
No, I agree. If you're topping off, like all my troughs are the big Rubbermaid water troughs, and I top off. In the winter, I top off every other day,
Yeah.
and in the summer, I top off every day, and then once every 2 or 3 weeks maximum, I'm dumping and scrubbing. And a lot of people, I've seen people use bleach in scrubbing their water troughs. I just don't. One, I don't want my hands exposed to it. And two, I don't. I mean, I know that we can dilute the water enough and it's all fine, right? The water we drink already has chlorine on it in it, unless you're drinking off of well water. But what I found, actually, a girlfriend gave it to me for Christmas. This little scrub thing. It's like a cloth, and it's called Scrubbies. Scurbies. And you get them on Amazon in packages of, I think, 6 to a package. And they are the bomb when it comes to scrubbing your water trough and getting all that really hard stuff that a scrub brush never seems to get. And when I'm lucky, my husband power washes my water troughs, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah, I'm bringing the power washer to the barn. That's gonna be great.
Which, like, it takes me, I have 5 water troughs, so
Yeah.
it takes me literally pretty much over a half a day to get everybody scrubbed. That's why I kind of cycle them. But then you're like, feel like all you're ever doing is scrubbing water troughs. I haven't really found a great way other than hubby power washing done in 3 or 4 hours, and then that time is really the filling of the water troughs. But he gets he gets everything in like 10 minutes. It takes me 20 or 25. But the scrubbies are amazing. They're like a washcloth, so you can get in there and get all those crevices. And when you find that you're really having to put a lot of elbow grease into them, it's time to throw your scrubby out.
That's
But
yeah.
in between, you can throw them in the washing machine. I mean, I use them on my bird cages. We use them in the kitchen. Not all the same one, but we use them everywhere. And I give them to my clients in Christmas cards
Nice.
because they're amazing. Um, I've had people say that putting apple cider vinegar in them in the wintertime helps them to keep them from freezing and helps to slow down in the summertime. The heat, makes the algae and stuff grow. Um, None of my horses would touch their water. Of course, I tried it in the winter.
Well, so that's kind
Bad
of
idea.
like apple cider vinegar increases the acidity. And so you have to know, and I don't know what it is. You have to know that you're diluting it properly to not be creating, like, you don't. My philosophy is I never want my horse's only source of water to have an additive that might discourage them from drinking or create a problem for them. So
Yeah.
I love apple cider vinegar in an herb bar where they can choose to drink it. I don't love putting additives in my horse's only water source.
So, Laura, I would love for you to do one of two things. Either, if you're willing, either attach it to the notes in this podcast or put it on our Facebook. Can you take a picture of your herb bar?
Yeah, it's not cute, guys. It's
No, but it's functional
it's
because,
4 trash cans from the dollar store. And I'd happily take a picture of it.
and what keeps them from knocking it over?
Well-behaved horses. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
but people who don't have well-behaved horses put them in tires, which you could go to any Les Schwab and they would be like, "What, you crazy person? You want to take our tires? Sure, here you go."
Yeah, because I'm curious. I know from the times that I've spent at equine universities and watching, not only did they plant a multiple variety of grasses, and
Mhm.
watching my horse for a summer and everybody else's horses picking different grasses at different days and different times of the day, but they also had clean water and molasses water, which is the equivalent of balancing their electrolytes and what days and when my horse would choose either or. But they also had minerals and things like that that Laura's talking about that one day they couldn't get enough of it. Like my mineral block, right? That's what I
Yeah.
have. Some days they just can't get enough of it. And then other days or weeks they don't touch it at all. In the winter they touch it less, right? But so I would love to see that.
Yeah, I
And
have photos. That's easy. I can put one up. No problem.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked about the water. Might think about goldfish, even though I don't want to have to scoop them out, but why not, right? If it's going to keep the red worms and the mosquito larvae out, it's worth it.
Yeah. And I think, so our my horse lived for 6 years with troughs with goldfish that never got refreshed, and the poop was always in there of the goldfish. And it wasn't my first choice, but she was fine.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I think refreshing that water once a month makes a huge difference. And it's all, there is no perfect, unless you have unlimited time and unlimited resources, and maybe even then, I don't know because I haven't experienced yet. There's no perfect solution for every problem. You have to
No.
do what works for you. But I guess let's round out that water. Either your water is being changed all the time so that mosquito larvae aren't being laid in it, or you're controlling it somehow with something in that water that's going to eat them. Otherwise, your horse is drinking mosquito larvae and you're having mosquitoes all over your property.
Hmm. Hmm. Because mosquitoes are attracted to water. So even keeping puddles and stuff like that out of your property, you still have your water troughs. So they're going to do what they're going to do, especially if you're in areas that have irrigation, you know, um,
Like where they like
fields and
flood
things
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, where they're flooding and, it's always moist, which was right across the street from us where we used to live. And yeah, they literally sprayed our area because the mosquitoes were so bad. So I mean, there's a ton of other things we could have talked about today, you guys, but I think that
We'll
what
do a
we
part
did,
two.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's other little tips and tricks and, like, I love to talk about blocker ties and I love
Yes.
to talk about different kind of grooming things and, um,
Yeah, I carry a blocker tie with me in my rig
mhm,
because I never ever trim a horse hard tied. And the number of people who walk by and say, "Oh, that is amazing. I've never seen that. I want one of those." Like, yeah,
yeah,
we'll talk about those
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
I have blocker ties everywhere. I even
Yeah.
found one in my Subaru the other day. I'm like, that's good to know because the next time I go somewhere that I
You
need
know
it,
you
it's
have it.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
have
one
them
of my clients was
everywhere.
like, "I found one on my counter. Someone had given it to me and I didn't even know what it was." Like
Oh
she was
my
so excited that
God.
she had it. Yeah.
So everybody that don't know, um, I never knew about blocker ties. I always hard tied because that's what I was taught. And I was hard tying my horse to a trailer. And he spooked and pulled back. And I teach rope safety, so I know I had the right handle on the rope. But what nobody ever told me is that small hands fit through the cleats of a horse trailer. Nobody ever told me that until I found the courage to post my incident on Facebook, and 9 other people had had the same thing happen. My horse pulled back. I held onto the rope. It got pulled into the cleat on the trailer and I lost my fingers. To this day, I will not, that was in 2019. I will not use anything but a blocker tie. And I teach all of my horses how to ground tie because yeah, just an FYI. So we'll talk about blocker ties. We'll show you one on the part 2 episode. We'll talk about grooming, bathing. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually no, I'll save that for the next episode because that's what we're going to talk about.
So if you have any questions about the topics covered in this episode, send us a message on our Facebook page, Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry, and we will answer your question in a post on our page. You will be anonymous. We'll just take the question and provide our input, and we want to do it on the post so that we can all learn and grow together, because nobody knows everything. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We want to remind you that we'll be here every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, following the golden rule. Have a plan, but always be willing to be flexible. Don't forget to connect with us using the links in the show notes below.
If you learned something new today, had an aha, or walked away with a valuable nugget, you can say thanks by leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on.